Hey guys, it's Sarumonin, and one of the things I've seen in Sword of Legends Online Beta is the lack of interrupts and ultimates when it comes to bosses when you're a DPS. So I'm hoping with these little tricks that I'm going to show you on this video, I can help you out. So, let's get right into it. So we'll start off with what I pretty much just mentioned, interrupts. I think one of the most important things while in combat is being able to focus on pushing out your DPS as well as being able to interrupt on time. This is important as DPS can stop a mechanic from happening while also lowering the golden bell guard from the bosses or monsters in general. Now the reason why that's important I'll talk about afterwards. So you'll notice when you fight bosses on them, they'll have sometimes a little blue bar that's charging up. This is when you can actually start using your interrupt skill. You can also see it under their HP bar, which by doing so will stop the mechanic they're about to do and also lower their golden bell guard, as I basically just said. So interrupting this mechanic will actually help your entire group and your tank and your healers overall. Personally, I recommend if you have a skill shoutout to do so you actually know that you're going to be doing it, because sometimes they'll do a skill that can be interrupted maybe 2 or 3 times right afterwards, so you want to actually time this. You don't want to have all your DPS using their interrupt skill at the same time, because basically one will cancel the other and then everyone will just have a cooldown. That's why voice chat is very important. You can also use Discord. Now the reason it's also important, and I just said this, is because when you interrupt you actually lower their golden bell guard. Now the reason why that's important is because if you lower it all the way to the bottom, basically they'll be knocked down and you'll have a chance to use your ultimate. For me it's my F2 button. Every DPS has its own version of an ultimate, so you only get the full effect once a boss is actually fully knocked down or has golden bell, which is a weird name all on its own, but yeah. So to recap, interrupt your bosses or monsters, get their golden bell guard broken, and then use your ult. One thing I like to do is once they've broken their guard, they'll be knocked down for a few seconds. I can use my group buff called March in the Snow for me, or Echo Blade or Blade Echo for others, and so on and so forth, along with my Silent Snow buff for myself, and then I can use my Thousand Lights ultimate. This will ensure that while the boss is knocked down, I can push all the DPS that I can as well as my teammates, for the next 30 seconds at least, which is equally important to burn down all possible HP you can with your group. Although a tip from me to you, coordinate with your healers first prior to battle, because if you do use Blade Echo or one of these versions, they will take away a resurrect skill from the healers, or rather they'll take away one of the times that they can resurrect in the dungeon. Now every time you're in a boss fight you can resurrect maybe twice, I believe, before you're basically out of luck. At least in normal mode. In a hard mode you only have one time. So using Blade Echo in general, it will actually take away a resurrection from you and everybody on your team, lowering the amount of times they can be resurrected in that boss fight. So if you're doing a hard mode dungeon, I would advise not using this buff unless you're 100% sure you can kill the boss without needing a resurrect. Normal mode, it's not that big of a deal, but if you're just starting out, I would advise against it. Alright, so the next tip, skills. This is pretty obvious, but basically learn your skills ahead of time. Use the mannequins in your home base for your class, or press K and go to your skill training, and you'll be teleported to an island where you can train your skills, plus you'll learn more about them. I also recommend checking in with other discords or forum boards that may feature that specific class that you're playing, which may offer a good way to play your class, learn more about it, and everyone's trying to figure out the right rotations every time in every single MMORPG, and maybe you'll find one for you that does the right amount of DPS for you. Ultimately, you could also duel other players or friends to figure out your best DPS output. Lastly, positioning. Positioning is incredibly important, and luckily the game does help you so you know where you need to go. So if you're confused due to the many effects that happen in game, you can actually check right here on the boss icon, and the green dot is actually where you are currently positioned. I recommend always being on the back or the bottom left or bottom right for optimal DPS and not confusing the tank. If you're in the front, you're probably going to be taking all of the damage as well with the tank. But in a lot of MMORPGs, your DPS will actually do more damage if you're positioned correctly. And ultimately, you want your gear. While you can get your full level 45 gear doing the story quests, basically by the time you get to the grasslands, make sure you're actually ready to tackle on the normal modes at Student 1 with level 45 gear in order to start getting level 50 gear. Once you're actually full level 50 gear, you'll be able to start farming hard modes for level 60 gear, and that should take you about 3 weeks to actually get full 60 gear, unless you're incredibly lucky. Your gear is just as important as your skill. After all, if you have low gear, you can get hit even more so, causing more stress on your healers. So, to summarize, always interrupt, always position yourself right, and when you do use your ultimate, you'll be even more effective, but make sure you use it when they're knocked down. Only use your Blade Echo if you've coordinated with your team or if you're sure that you can actually burn the boss down fast enough without requiring a resurrection. And lastly, learn your class well. It's not a racing game, it will take time to learn your class, figure out how things work, what works with what skills you can use to coordinate with other players and other classes, and pay attention to the AoEs and poisons around you. I shouldn't say this because I was actually a healer for a long time. This is the first game I'm gonna be a DPS in, but remember that your healer can let you die at any point, so never make them mad. They're your gods now. I'm sorry about that. That's, I think, the best that I can do for you now for tips and tricks for DPS. There's obviously a more elaborate way I can actually explain all of this, but you know me, I like making short videos and making sure I'm straight to the point, so that's just how it is here. Now, the beta is ending in a few days, and I have one more video coming out before that for gearing and how it works for PvE and PvP. So keep an eye out on that one. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and click that adorable fucking bell to know when I upload a brand new video. And don't forget to come join my Discord if you want to chat and hang out. Much love, and as always, till next time, friends.